This is for Journal 2 for Film and Culture. So, in this journal, we're going to be talking about like society and stuff and comparing it to some of the films that we watch. So, what society is to me uh, is basically like these five bulletin points that I have. So, like growing up, you have your community, your family, depending on like where you're from or your family's from, the culture, um, unity amongst like all like especially here in the U.S. Amongst like all the different cultures, like getting along and stuff, and friends that you make too. Um, all these five main points blended together. That's kind of like my idea of society. Um, what is natural and normal to me? Uh, so like in society, me the way I was brought up, it's going to get an education, getting a good job, working. Um, I was always taught to like be yourself. I guess that's like a big part of like especially U.S. society or like culture, individualism. So just being yourself. Um, Traditions as well, like cultural traditions, like celebrations too plays into it, like holidays and stuff. Um, Especially here in the U.S., we kind of celebrate everything, but stuff like Christmas, Fourth of July, stuff like that. Um, Everyday stuff too, like how you get ready for class or for work, things like that. Uh, when thinking about the Hunger Games and Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, these were the two films that we watched. The other, from what I understood and kind of made it out to be, was kind of like the Outcast in a way. So not like or the Outcast, but like they're just lower than the normal. So for Hunger Games, it was like the poorer districts or the lower class districts, kind of like the mining and the agriculture. Basically, any district that wasn't close to the capital is kind of like the other. Like they're always looked down upon. And in the other film, The Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, that one was basically any woman that wasn't the ideal woman, which was like a blonde, whitish lady. Um, that's what I interpreted the other to be in the films. And going off of that into our lives, like real life, um, it's pretty simple. It's kind of like the lower class, like the poor class, like the people that are oppressed, the less fortunate. The oppressed people could be not necessarily here in the U.S., but other societies like um, Middle East, kind of where the religion plays a heavy role in how you're seen as an individual in society. Here in the U.S., it's more of a class issue. Like if you're from the poor class, often you're looked down upon and kind of in a way disregarded um, from care or focus. And really, your opinion kind of doesn't matter to those in power or higher up on the list. And like going off of the lifestyles, I believe the question had like, brushing your teeth, getting dressed, drinking coffee, stuff like that. Um, Really, why do we choose this for like ourselves or in particular, I guess me? Um, it's just growing up. I guess you're kind of taught the traditions from your family, like your parents. Um, they teach you right and wrongs and how things should go. And as you grow up, obviously you like are able to think more for yourself. So you kind of, or I guess I kind of incorporate what I believe to be the normal, which is I have to be up, get ready, um, dress somewhat nice to where I feel like I look decent to everyone else at school. Head to school, do my school, focus on it. That's kind of my daily life right now, and um, something about what we do as a society compared to others. Um, I guess here in the U.S., it's kind of hard to like determine that in a way because it's a mix mash of all these different cultures and stuff. But um, like compared to other like, societies like Asian society and stuff, things are done very different. Theirs is more like other societies may be more traditional compared to ours because ours is not necessarily those kind of standards set up just because the US is a big, safe haven for everybody. Um, so it's kind of hard to establish set societal terms or like norms compared to other like nations in different parts of the world. But for the most part, most people have the same kind of style. You have to go to work, pay the bills, stuff like that. And um, one thing here though is the class system. There is a like, in my opinion, a big gap between like the well off, the upper class, and then middle and low class. Um, you know, usually besides like the poor class, the middle class is always breaking their backs, to make a living, a decent living, while the upper class is living carefree for the most part. And the lower or the poor class, they're kind of just neglected in general. And when comparing, the film The Hunger Games, which is what I'm gonna go with, and real life or my life, um, we were born, or I was born and grew up in like the middle class. So there was times where it kind of dipped down a little bit, but for the most part, I've been okay growing up and being in the middle class. Kind of, uh, it forms you as a person because now I know I need to go get a really good education, which is why I'm going for nursing to be able to maintain that classification, so to say. Um, and what I got from like the film, like comparing it to real life, was like in the film, it's the capital or the upper class versus the lower class. It's kind of like that in a way in real life. Like we're all like we're surviving every day, especially now with inflation. While the rich and stuff kind of control like the flow of things, and they're living carefree. And the way they are creating peace, quote unquote, it's kind of like an illusion. It's more of like control and power. Um, they get to do whatever they want, and in doing so, they oppress and police the lower class and force them into doing the dirty work and their bidding in order to, uh, remain in power and keep living that high luxury, no care lifestyle without a care in the world. And policing the lower classes, forcing them to work and struggle every day, doing all the essential work for nothing, like, no pay really. They're fighting for food. Um, that's their version of peace. And we can see like those kind of scenarios, not exactly that extreme, but in our current life, like the cost of living is going up. Um, all of a sudden, being middle class isn't as okay anymore. Now we're kind of sinking to the lower class um, classification. Um, Many feel like there's no voice in government because of like this drastic, uh, kind of like recently. It just I don't really know how to word it. It just kind of feels like there's no voice in government. Like the elections are always going to happen a certain way, just because of those in the upper class with money and corruption and stuff. And it does show fragmentation because recent years, like the 2020 election, things have erupted into violence um, between, you know, in this example or real life examples, the oppressed or the blacks or the minorities versus, the whites who are in power and stuff. And that led to a lot of protest and stuff. Example, kind of like a counter to the minority protest was like the January 6th insurrection. Um, Things like that. It just shows that society is definitely not